Monday morning, afternoon, whatever time you're listening to us. Perhaps Tuesday, since, no games Monday night. So maybe you're saving your content for Tuesday. Whenever you're tuning in, thank you for joining us. I am Jamie Steyer Johnson alongside Cindy Brunson here on the Her Hoop Stats podcast. It is Monday, June 23rd. And as always, on these Mondays, no games tonight, but a whole lot to get into from over the weekend. And then, there's always plenty to get into in general. We're going to touch a little bit on some All-Star, on a campaign that Cindy is spearheading here, but we will get to that later. But first, folks, what a weekend it was. And I feel like we can say that pretty consistently every Monday. But especially this one, there were some very, very exciting matchups that I think we kind of had circled on the calendar, right? You had the Aces going against the Storm. You had the Storm also saw the Liberty over the weekend. You had Fever Aces. It was a lot. And man, there was actually a level of consistency from some teams here, which was exciting, especially from, if you're watching on YouTube, the team that Cindy is repping here on screen with the Storm going 2-0 over the weekend. So let's go ahead and start there. They have had some incredible games. They've had some lulls, but it certainly seems like they are finding their footing, figuring out their roles. They're getting more consistent contributions from some of the players that it seemed like they were sort of waiting to get back to the form that we know they're capable of. I'm thinking like Ezzy Magbagor. And so, man, just a fun team to watch, especially in those huge matchups.
Oh, 100%. The length and the defense, ridiculous. Gabby Williams, the light has turned on. She understands what she's supposed to do in that offense. And defensively, she is just a live ball turnover waiting to happen, right? The steals all over the place. Absolutely so much fun to watch. Skylar Diggins has played her way back up into the top 5 in the WNBA in that category. And when that is where she lives, that is so dangerous for the rest of the WNBA, because that means the fulcrum of the offense, Nneka Ogwumike, is eating. And that is problematic because Nneka, I don't know if it is some sort of hyper cold therapy that she's doing, some sort of cryo freezing. I don't know the terminology, but what I do know is that young woman has stepped into a Wayback Machine and is giving me 2016 MVP Nneka vibes. And if that continues, watch out. Now, I know the Liberty were shorthanded. No Sabrina. That's huge. Hope that neck injury is not serious. Jonquel Jones is on the shelf 4 to 6 weeks, which means we may not be able to see her at All-Star. Like, this is, the Liberty have decided we're sitting that individual down because she is that important to the postseason repeat opportunity. So yes, the Storm beat a shorthanded Liberty team, but when the wins and losses are stacked up, nobody remembers who was active on that day. They just see you continue to stay tethered to the top 4 in the league, and that's where you need to be.
Absolutely. And the Liberty, to your point, having some issues here with injuries, having some absences.
Yes. And Eurobasket, right?
Yeah,
Leo's not
having
there.
Leo back is going to be really huge. But gosh, first of all, again, I'll reiterate how important it is that Niara Sabally ended up not only getting healthy, but opting to stay instead of going over to Eurobasket, because they would be in a really pretty dire situation without her on the interior. But then, you have Sabrina woke up with the kink in her neck. And so you're hoping that that's truly all it is. You've got JJ that, at a certain point when you re-aggravate an injury, you have to be really careful with that. And so you are trying to, preserve your potential for the long term. You're playing the long game, not the short game. And so a little bit of a tough stretch here for the Liberty, where obviously started out on a pretty incredible tear. And now you get back to what I've mentioned with several teams that have had some injuries, some absences, where you still have this really solid level of depth. You have other extremely capable players. And so if they can play well, if they can step up in those absences, that can help you long term. But in the
Mhm.
short term, you are going to have some bumps in the road. You are going to have some growing pains. And so I just, I feel like they have enough experience. They have enough of that like long term vision where I don't think that the Liberty are going to be in panic mode. But
Not
that's what I
yet.
think people have to understand is that, yeah, if you come out of this and you get Maureen Johannes playing really well, if you can get her going, if you can get Rebecca Gardner
Mhm.
defending the way that we have seen her in the past and the way we saw her over the weekend at times defending, and then you get the rest of those pieces back in, that's going to be huge long term. But in the short term, you got to be able to get back into that win column because it does get a little bit tough just mentally looking at the standings, things like
Mhm.
that, to withstand those struggles, even when you know, well, there's reasons for it. You're still
Yeah.
losing.
I would like the Liberty to get right by the, last Friday of July when I have tickets to attend a game at Barclays. Thank you. Appreciate it. This week, I'm
Yeah.
heading to Dallas to watch Paige Beckers in person. I
Oh my
cannot wait.
gosh. How
As my
fun.
WNBA arena tour continues, I wanna see what the wings look like in a big girl arena. So it'll be
Hmm.
at American Airlines Center. I'm very curious to see what Caitlin Clark looks like. She has hit one of her last 17 three-point shots. That is abnormal. And I'm hoping that it's not the quad because it was that kind of glaring number before she sat out that handful of games. Was it 2
Hmm.
for 12 from three?
Yeah.
Yesterday, she was 1 for 10. So I'm hoping that there's not an injury situation there either, because if she's not on the floor to assist the basketball, what do the Fever look like? And they held their own. They got a Commissioner's Cup bid, playing a majority of those games without her. So
Hmm.
to be determined. But yeah, just sending good vibes to the Fever's way. Not just because I'm going to see them play in person on Friday, but in general, it's like we
Yeah.
we see who the leading vote getter is so far for WNBA All Star, and you want your stars to be able to shine for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely one of those where you look at it and you say, "Okay, is this a sort of regression to the mean where she comes back on such a tear and then
Mm,
you have a little bit of a lull and so at a certain point you kind of play the averages." But
yep.
also when you know that you have those injuries that really can be nagging and when it's okay, I'm coming back and there's not going to be a minutes restriction because I wasn't coming back until I was able to go without a minutes restriction, but
Hmm.
it's still tough to work back in playing substantial minutes, and so
Yeah.
you're sitting there, you're hoping, okay, this is all obviously speculation, wondering on our part, and so you're just
Yeah.
hoping that no, it's just a little bit of a dry spell there, and so you want that to come back, and yeah, especially for you when you have that kind of matchup on the docket. I mean, how exciting is that going to be? The environment will be absolutely crazy. You know that you're going to have two teams that are very, very hungry for some more good wins because a
Hmm.
couple of kind of heartbreakers over the weekend for the Wings and the Fever. The Fever losing 81-89 at Las Vegas, and
Yep.
then the Wings dropping the overtime game to the
Yeah.
Mystics 88-91 after being in control near the end of the game, falling behind a
Hmm.
little bit, getting that crazy game tying shot from Paige Beckers, and then
The
the
whole arena thought
Mystics
Enrique was
losing.
going to take that shot.
Yeah,
Everybody in the stands, the broadcast booth, everybody watching at home, like, "Ooh, how are they going to get Enrique loose for this game tying
which
three?"
is
And
so
Paige just
funny.
steps into it,
Yeah,
splash.
like it's Enrique has struggled this season. Like that's not a secret. she gets
No,
going in a game
averaging a career
finally, and we
low,
see
but you
that.
can see
Yeah,
the intention of the offense,
right.
and
And
it
so
is,
then she,
"Hey,
yeah.
we wanna make sure that Paige is going and that Paige is aggressive."
Mhm.
And I think the Wings, I'm hoping they fly in Gino Auriemma on Friday as well because that has been a little good luck charm too,
Yeah.
right? 2-0 with him in the stands. But yeah, very intentional on Dallas can be at its best because I don't think they're concerned about Arike's ability to score, right? She
Mhm.
is a proven bucket. So I don't have to work anything for her. She's going to eat. That's not a problem. It's making sure that Paige is hungry and is chasing shots because that makes that 1-2 punch incredibly formidable.
Mhm. Yeah, because that's what I think struck me the most is that exactly as you say, I think everyone sort of anticipated them going to Arike for that shot. And part of that is, yes, she had a great game, but also there's been sort of this pattern with Paige where like she loves to distribute. She loves to get her teammates
Mhm.
going. Like I think that in her perfect world, she's probably like, yeah, I'd love to be making the pass for the game winning shot. And there's been times where Gino has talked about this extensively where he's like, take the shot yourself. And so I think that it shows like that evolution and that awareness and that gamesmanship from Paige where she's saying, no, this shot is here for me, especially when people are anticipating it going to Arike. And so you're getting that logic, you're getting just that kind of game sense with not, I mean, obviously Paige Beckers has mountains of game sense. She knows
Yep.
basketball extremely well, but that has to adapt with your team, with your system. And so I do think that it shows that she's getting more comfortable, more used to what her role is in Dallas, what her role is going to be game to game, because we know that that evolves depending on how you're being played, who you're playing. And
Mhm.
so taking that shot, I think, is a really good indication of her comfort level in Dallas. On the other hand, the Mystics to withstand that and then to come back and still win, even after having, that tough end to regulation.
Mm.
I continue to be so blown away. I loved how people were highlighting the like the most respectful crash out ever from Coach Cindy Johnson. Like the way that he just kind of came out of the court to be like, I do not agree with that. Like no
Right?
stomping of the feet, no tantrum, just like,
No.
hey, I
Just
don't no.
just I'm going to start occupying space closer to you, so you will know how displeased I am. I loved it. Absolutely
I
loved it.
it killed me.
And
Like,
Sonia Citron said, "Hey, that fired me up.
yeah.
Coach has our back."
And
Boom.
I
Period.
mean, that's been so evident from very early on where like he is so connected with his team.
Yes.
Like that is really difficult to do when you are new to a program and when you have so
Mhm.
many young players. Like
Yep.
I've been beyond impressed. I talked about this with Coach Williams because he is a Princeton product and she also
Mm.
coached there. And so that's what you're talking about, like, the Princeton scheme and stuff like that. But also, you just
Yep.
have this experience of being in the same place for a while and building those relationships. And that is one of my like soapboxes is people just do not give enough credit to the interpersonal relationships, to the behind the scenes stuff
Mhm.
that
To the
happens
development
between.
piece. He's a
Yes,
developer. And you can
exactly.
see Washington getting better by the dribble, up and
Yeah.
down the roster.
Yeah. And that's why they are one of my top picks for long-term success in the league
Mm,
right now because of how young they are and because of what we're seeing already this season with him in charge, with the pieces that they have coming
mhm,
together. Like I am extremely, extremely high long-term, 2, 3, 4
yep.
seasons down the line on the Mystics.
Well, and let's shout
And
out what they do to support the growth of that franchise. The Mystics have one of the best broadcast teams in the WNBA in Megan
oh,
McPeak, who
100%.
does play-by-play, Christy Winter-Scott, who's the analyst. But this is a team that also provides a pregame and a postgame show for its fans in the DC metro area. And that is shoulder programming that almost stands alone in the
Mhm.
WNBA, which is sad to say out loud. Now, the Valkyries came correct. They have a similar situation, but
Mhm.
they're new to the party, right?
Yeah.
Washington has been doing this for a minute, and I don't think that gets talked about enough. They are treating this like it is the big time entity that deserves attention. And I have loved that about the Mystics franchise. That fan base is served very well.
Yeah, and especially when okay, they are sitting at almost 500, which I think is really
Mhm.
impressive this year.
Yes.
But it's not like they've been on this incredible tear. They've had some great seasons in the past. They've had some struggles more recently, but
Yep.
they are not just saying, "Well, I guess we're not that great, and so who really cares that much?" Like that's an attitude that you can't get away with in most professional sports, and for some
Right.
reason that happens in women's sports, and so I think that exactly as you say, like to treat it like a big time sport to give it the respect it deserves. And so
Mhm.
that's already in place when you get these players that have really great individual followings, when you get a team that is as fun to watch as this team is, you are already putting all of these things in place long before the even overt demand would be there. And so you're ready to go. And so
Mhm.
this season, it's already in place. It's so much more accessible than so many teams. They have a very consistent social presence. They give
Yeah.
a little bit of something for everyone. Like something I notice is that it's not just highlights and fit pics that they're posting, which there's nothing wrong with that. I love that. But they also are throwing out some of the more like deep cut stats as
Yeah.
well. They make those kind of graphics. And so for people like you and I that, are used to looking at it from an analyst lens for
Mhm.
I've talked about this with college coaches a lot where they say, yeah, I'm also a fan. Like almost more than anything, I'm a fan. And sometimes there's not a lot of content out there for me. And so it's like, hey, who has content for you is the Mystics. Like they're speaking to
Mhm.
you at your level. And so I just think that that's something that a lot of teams can certainly learn from. And again, will just serve them so, so well going forward because man, are they set up well for the long
Yes.
term for sure.
Although, Mystics fans, get online. Brittany Sykes, let's get her in the
Oh,
All-Star game, please. Thank you.
oh my gosh. I know. Okay, so let's kind of pivot to that because the returns of fan voting came back a few days ago. Friday was
Yes.
the first return that we got, and not necessarily shocking anyone was Caitlin Clark as the front runner.
Right.
I was very impressed with how close behind Nafisa Collier was. I think that certainly speaks to how great of a season she's had so far. That like
Right.
most people, if you're putting in a ballot, Fee's gonna be on there. And so
Yes. MVP, as
trailing
I like
very
to say.
close behind. Exactly, exactly. And then beyond that, you've got no one I think really shocking, but there's some that are outside of the top 20 or so that I think are shocking. Like Brittany Sykes being down at 28
Mhm.
is uh disappointing for her just for what she's been doing.
Yes.
Definitely got to get her boosted a little bit there. I don't know. I feel like there's gonna be some some kind of disappointing snubs because there always are, but
Mm.
definitely
I
some
just
of
hope
those
Tosh
players.
Cloud is not one of them, please.
Ah,
Please,
yes,
WNBA
exactly.
fans.
Exactly. The fans and then the media voting, we'll see how that factors into things, but
Right.
it's I don't know. It's very interesting. The injuries and stuff will play into that as well to some degree. As far as okay, do we have anyone that ends up sitting out all-star? But
Mhm.
I don't know.
Which
I'm
I'm not
certainly
mad at
excited.
because it would give
Yep.
somebody else an opportunity.
Right.
So,
There's going to be plenty of people that deserve an opportunity there. I'm excited to hopefully see Gabby Williams. I think would be really fun to get there
oh,
because
absolutely.
as you
Yes.
talked about, I mean, the way that she's
Mhm.
broken out this year, finally getting here for a full season, like
Yeah.
man, we are seeing why Seattle has been so high on her
Yeah.
for sure. And she has the kind of game that certainly would translate to like an all-star type of environment.
Yep. 100%.
So, with that, oh, I did have one little thing I noticed as I was reading through this. So,
Yeah.
something I haven't seen mentioned is the coaches are the teams with the top 2 highest records at the
Correct.
end of the voting period, right?
Yep.
So we were just talking before we started recording about how there really wasn't a whole lot of controversy over the weekend. And so I'm going to go ahead and maybe bring a little bit up here, because as of
Ooh.
right now, the coach with the highest winning percentage is in fact
Mhm.
Cheryl Reeve. The
Yeah.
highest winning percentage coach coaches the team with the captain that had the highest number of votes, which is Caitlin Clark.
Right.
And there seems to be this narrative that there is beef between Cheryl Reeve and Caitlin Clark. I don't think
No.
that's reality for those two
No. No, not at
at
all.
all. But
No.
we're going to get a whole lot of narratives about it, I'm sure. And so I'm just hoping that like people keep their heads on straight, because I think for those two, it'd be really cool. It'd be really
Yeah.
fun. They obviously have like an extremely high level of mutual respect for each other as player, coach, long-term success. But
Right.
I'm just, maybe this is like backwards thinking that I'm even bringing it up to say I hope that it doesn't happen, but I've been around long enough to know
No,
how these
somebody
narratives
will be
work.
a knucklehead and bring it up. And what's great is both women, and I know I can totally speak for Cheryl, she'll tamp it down. She'll just say,
Mhm.
there's nothing to see here, keep it moving. I can't speak for Caitlin because I just haven't seen her operate in media spaces for as
Mhm.
long as I have watched Coach Reeve. And I hope she would do the same. Cece should be able to just say, "What are you guys talking about? Let's keep it a basketball." We've heard her say that post game this
Yeah.
season already, right? Because at the end of the day, both those women are very attuned to their platforms. Both women understand the assignment, grow the game. They're not going to get in each other's way. That is ridiculous.
Yeah. And so I think that the big takeaway for me is that it'll be fun to potentially see Cheryl coaching against Nafisa Collier,
Oh
because
yeah.
currently
Yeah.
Fee is second in votes, and so that would mean she's on the opposite team. So that's
Right.
that's part of what I wanted to bring up, is that I think that you get those little fun matchups and things like that between coach and their own players, and who
Mhm.
knows who the second coach is going to be, because I mean technically it could not be Cheryl, but
Right.
I think that the Lynx are in a pretty good spot where they're 12 and
Mhm.
1, and the next fewest losses are the Liberty with 10 and 3. And so
Right.
you could have Nate Tibbetts, you could have Sandy
Mhm.
Brondello, you could have Carl Smesco, you could have Noelle Quinn. Like any of
Yeah.
them could very easily end up having the second best record in the league. And so I think that that's super, super intriguing. We're going to have a lot of movement as far as the, I think, fan voting and stuff goes. But the other
Yeah.
point that you wanted to get to on All Star was some of the contests that we have, including the
Yes.
3-point contest.
3-point shooting contest. Please, 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 whoever is in charge, send out an invitation to Tahina Pow Pow yesterday.
Yep.
Please and thank you. Pow Pow is leading the league in 3-point percentage, and she has just been a bucket for the Dream. What a luxury to pull that rookie off the bench, put her in, and know she's going to be good for at least 3 made threes. That's remarkable. And
I mean,
the more Atlanta
absurd.
wins, the more she produces, the more confident she gets. You can see the love that Alicia Gray, Ryan Howard, and Nas Hillman are pouring into her in particular. It
Mhm.
is so cool to see. So that is a person I would love to see in the 3-point shooting contest, along with Sabrina and Caitlin. I'd like to see Alicia back in there to defend her title.
Mhm.
But yeah, that is the drum I'd like to beat. Tahina Pow Pow.
Absolutely. And especially, I mean, not only is she leading the league in 3-point percentage, she's also leading the league in points per scoring attempt. And
Yep.
it's a pretty wide margin. Like, that's something that our Her Hoop stats site tracks. And we have, a summary of a bunch of the different advanced stats that we keep on our homepage, right? And one of those is
Mhm.
points per scoring attempt. In the top 5, you have Tahina Pow Pow, who's scoring over 1.5 points per scoring attempt, which is
That's because she shoots the three.
absurd. Exactly. She
Yeah.
shoots the three and she shoots it at a high percentage, The second
Yep.
place player is Kennedy Burke. So Tahina's at 1.55 points for
Yeah.
scoring attempts. So every time she shoots the ball, she's going to get over a point and a half. Kennedy Burke, 1.42. And so the gap between Tahina Pow Pow and number two is greater
Mhm.
than the gap between 2 and 5. And I'm sure even
Wow.
further down than that. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy what she
Yeah.
is doing out there. And exactly as you say, it's another one of those things that I keep looking at as far as long term for these teams,
Mhm.
for these groups of players. When you see a group that has the cohesion that Atlanta has,
Yeah.
man, do you get excited? Because I mean, I remember early in the season, someone I think talking about what Alicia Gray would do next year, talking about,
Mhm.
wow, her stock's gonna be really high. I wonder if she might try to go, here, there, wherever. And Ryan retweets it. She's like, oh, she's gonna be back. Like, they're
Yeah,
like,
Rye
no,
knows.
we're locked
Rye
in.
Rye could also be in that three-point discussion, as far as the All-Star game is
Yeah, I mean,
concerned, because she's
it's gonna
leading the
be
league
about
in
how many
makes and
dream
takes.
players
Yeah,
do we want? Yeah.
yeah. But I don't know if we want it to be all Atlanta Dream. I love that you mentioned Kennedy Burke. I'd like to see her take more threes,
Hmm.
because I just wanna see that usage. I I'm seeing it with the last 5, 6 games with Tahina for sure. So I would like to see that same ask of Kennedy Burke in New York. And it's hard, right? When you've got Stewie who shoots the three, and Jonquel and Sabrina, who are going to be options ahead of Kennedy. And I think that's why people still aren't going, oh, Kennedy Burke can really shoot the three. So
Hmm.
those of us that watch her at UCLA know she can. So it's cool to see that she's doing it with Liberty. I just want to see more of it.
Yeah, and I know that Corey Close talked about that early in the season. Some people were asking her about Kennedy Burke's development, and that's exactly what she said is, she's been capable. It's just about showing it. And
Hmm.
especially as we say here in New York, where you have this opportunity, this need for production. I mean,
Hmm.
Kennedy Burke really should have an opportunity to step up. It's really hard when you go from being maybe a like third or fourth option, which isn't a slight on her. It's more about how great of options she has around her, to all of a sudden your team needs so much more because of these injuries, because of these absences. And it's a very, very different spot to be in. And so
Yeah.
I think that she's someone who is very capable and has been put in good situations up to this point, but just not the amount of shots, the volume that they could really use from her when they need more of that production. And so I think
Mhm.
that players like, I mentioned Marie Johannes earlier. We've seen a good bit of Rebecca Gardner. She's obviously someone
Right.
that is a lot of the time talked about more on the defensive end for her length, but I think that Kennedy Burke is someone that early in the season was talked about some because of the way that she sort of surprised people. But I think
Mhm.
it's time to sort of round back to her and say, okay, this is another player we really could use a little bit
Yeah.
more production from, and has the opportunity to do so.
Also want to shout
So,
out the Valkyries. Whoever the
oh,
Valkyries want to send to Gamebridge to participate in whatever, I'm down. I cannot
yeah.
wait to see the Valkyrie fan base represent in Indiana, because we're more than a quarter of the way through the season, and it is Golden State leading the league in attendance. Who had that on their bingo card to start the season? It is, I am a Chase Center fan. I have been there. It was one of the best in game experiences I have ever taken in. So kudos to everybody associated with that organization. And I hope that Portland is paying attention. I have railed on this podcast before. Where's Portland? Hello, we're hearing
Hmm.
about Toronto. Portland finally put out some posts over the weekend. Hey, we're coming. Be on the lookout. So I'm very curious to see what Portland is going to do, what the nickname is, because if they can match the fire, yes, an homage to a name previous, that Golden State has brought to the table, I think it just will demonstrate that the league doesn't have to be about just one person or two or three players, that this is a place for the love of the game, and
Hmm.
it can be played everywhere across the country, across North America now with our team in Toronto.
Absolutely. Yes. I can't wait to hear what else we have coming out about Portland, what we have coming out about All-Star weekend, hopefully here
Mhm.
sooner rather than later.
Yep.
Obviously we're getting pretty close to the All-Star break, which is always a good time to sort of reset, give some people that need a little bit of a little bit of a break, hopefully
Yeah.
get most of the rosters back intact. We have some players getting back from Eurobasket here pretty soon, those that have already been eliminated. There's some that'll still be over there for a while. I know personally, as a Lynx follower, I am very excited to get Jess Shepard back, but
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the next couple weeks here. I really do hope that we start getting some information on what those contests might be at All Star, because exactly like you're talking about, there's a lot of really good options for a
Mhm.
lot of these, but especially the 3-point contest.
Yeah.
There's some big home runs to be hit there that I'm hoping they get taken care of.
Absolutely. I am so excited to see how it all unfolds. I wanna give a shout out to the Phoenix Mercury. The road trip that I mentioned last week, I was like, "Okay, this
Hmm.
is the test." Well, they aced it 4-0.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. To go into Barclays, and yes, Jonquel Jones did not play in that game, but to win in their house, that is huge. And my early leader in the clubhouse for general manager of the year, Nick
Oh,
Uren,
I
because he
mean,
built
hands
that
down.
roster. Yes, he got the 3 superstars at the top, right? He has been um, wanting to bring a Satu Sabali to the desert for since the day he was hired, basically. But what he built around Kalia Copper, Alyssa Thomas, and Satu Sabali, providing Nate Tibbetts the pieces he was hoping to get to run the offense, the very 3-point shot heavy offense that he wants to run, it's all starting to click.
Mhm.
And they have recognized quickly, Nick and Nate, about how teams have had recent success in the WNBA, going back to 2021 in the Chicago Sky. That roster had 5 players who scored in double figures. Right now, Phoenix has 3, but they've got 2 more that average 9. So they're
Mhm.
right in that formulaic mix of having death by a thousand cuts, weapons everywhere. And that just feeds into the assist leader in the league, Alyssa Thomas, right? Like she will find you. Have your hands ready to catch the ball. She will find you. And we know that Satu Sabali's 3-point numbers are going to go up, her shooting percentage. So she is just the unicorn, versatile Swiss Army knife weapon that they had hoped she would be. She has maintained her health to this point. Knock on wood for Mercury fans that that continues. But I have been so impressed with a lot of what Phoenix has done as far as the roster build and putting themselves in a position to succeed and to weather Eurobasket and to weather injuries. I mean, they've
Yeah.
picked up the bulk of those wins without Kalia Copper's services,
Yeah.
and that is a testament to Nick and Nate.
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly incredible to me, just the way that they've put this roster together. I mean, first of all, exactly as you said, to withstand the injuries. I mean, yes, you have some tremendous kind of headline players in Satu
Mhm.
Sabali, in Alyssa Thomas, in Kalia Copper. Alyssa Thomas missed 5 games. Kalia
Yeah.
Copper has only played 3. And so it's not a slight on those 3 to say that their wins are coming vastly as a result of the rest of the cast. And that's just as far as even the minutes played. That's just the facts of it. And so
Mm.
to have these players that it's not even just, oh, we're bringing in people that have had some success elsewhere, whatever. We're bringing in people that have not played in this league before. And so
Yeah.
it is something that is fairly unprecedented in the W, in the way that they put this roster together, and in the way that they've allowed these players to earn their time, where you have both Catherine Westbeld and Monica Komakani have started every game this year
Yeah.
as rookies with pretty significant overseas experience. Like they came in, they were prepared, and so they earned that spot in training camp, and they haven't felt the need to really fiddle with that afterwards. And so I think that it
Mhm.
shows a great level of trust in the roster that they built. I think it shows a great level of awareness, especially internationally, to identify these additions to their team, and
Yep.
just to the way that they've been integrated in there, I think has been great. And so yeah, I mean, it would take a pretty big swing elsewhere for me, for anyone else to frankly be in the conversation for front office of the year, because
Right.
it is I mean, I've never seen anything like what they put together this year.
Yeah, and big part of the reason why they set the franchise record for 17 made threes just the other day.
Yeah.
The other leader in the clubhouse for me is Dan over in Atlanta. What he has done with
Mhm.
the dream, getting all of those pieces together with a new head coach. I mean, Nate and Nick have been in lockstep together pretty much, right?
Mhm.
Um, but with Carl, that's a whole new piece of the puzzle. And to build that roster like Dan has done, you understand what Las Vegas is missing because he's no longer there for roster construction after he built what won them 2 championships. And you can see why Atlanta is a serious contender to raise a championship when it's all said and done, because that team is built to win in this league with the size, length, and shot making that you absolutely have to have for success.
Oh, as always, you are, from your mouth to the fans' ears to my ears to, everyone. You're hitting on all the points that we need to. I very, very much appreciate it. As always, we could sit here for another 2 hours, but gosh, awesome, awesome thoughts today. Really excited to get into it. I think next week when we're getting pretty close to all-star, things like that. But in the meantime, loved our talk today. Folks, you can find Cindy Brunson online at Cindy Brunson AZ. You can find me at JSteyz, JSTEYZ. Make sure that you're following the Her Hoop Stats Network everywhere, at Her Hoop Stats. Anywhere you are on social media, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, X, all that fun stuff. Make sure you like, subscribe to our channel, wherever you are listening to us, whether that be YouTube, your audio platforms, all of that. It certainly helps us out a whole lot. As always, we will be back daily here this week. And in the meantime, we appreciate you listening in. We'll talk to you next time. Thank you.